we will reflect upon and show our gratitude to our teacher, Pingmat Kiribadguru Jnanananda Swamin Wahanse. Venerable Kiribadguru Jnanananda Thero, our teacher, Pingmat Loku Swamin Wahanse, for teaching us this Dhamma. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. Dear all, today I think we couldn't finish the sutta that we began last week. So, do you remember the name of the sutta that we learned?
Culavedalla Sutta Bhante.
Yeah, the Culavedalla Sutta. So we didn't have time to finish the sutta last week. So we'll first recap what we learned in the sutta, and then we can continue the rest. Okay. So this was a conversation between Bhikkhu Dhammadinna and also the wife, like the husband of Bhikkhu Dhammadinna in the lay life husband, Upasaka Visakha. So in this conversation, Visakha Upasaka asks certain questions from Bhikkhu Dhammadinna, to which he answers. So through listening to this Dhamma discussion, we can also learn the Dhamma and understand things that we do not understand, and also clarify Dhamma points that we may have doubts upon, also some things that we do not understand. So the purpose of a Dhamma discussion is to purify our Dhamma knowledge so that we can, so that understanding the Dhamma in this way, like it is very helpful in two ways. Like one method by which you can learn Dhamma is to actually listen to Dhamma discourses, Dhamma sermons, and the other thing also which Buddha said is very important is to engage in Dhamma discussions. Okay, the reason these Arahants, the ones who have actually realized the Dhamma, they engage in Dhamma discussions is because of two things. One is that they themselves derive a certain pleasure, devoid of sensual pleasures, a spiritual pleasure by engaging in Dhamma discussions, and also for the benefit of the disciples who would follow this Dhamma in future. So it is because these Dhamma discussions are there that today we learn from them. So that is the purpose of a Dhamma discussion, and we have to retain this Dhamma knowledge that we learn, acquire in this way, and then contemplate upon them and try to understand. And that helps grow our wisdom. Because our wisdom is the foremost Kalyana Mitra we have within us. Wisdom is within us. We all have wisdom to some extent. But that wisdom, it has to be nurtured. It has to be fed. There has to be nourishment for the wisdom. What is the nourishment for wisdom? It is the teachings of the Buddha. That's the nourishment. And then when you contemplate upon these teachings, think accordingly, according to the teachings of the Buddha, the words of the Arahants, then your wisdom, it grows. It has nourishment. If not, what happens? Wisdom is also sanskara, no? Something that is conditioned. If it is not nourished, if it's malnourished, what happens? Gradually,
It
it
will fade away.
declines. Yeah, it declines. And you will die a fool. The fool's death is not something you should look forward to, because after death, the fool, an unwise person, would be reborn in the four planes of misery. So that's why we have to, in this way, nurture our wisdom by learning the teachings of the Buddha, by contemplating upon them. I think there are many cameras that are still switched off. Like 8 or so, I think, even more maybe. So please switch
Yeah,
on your
we try.
camera. Okay. There's a one obedient disciple, two The others also you have to follow suit if you are joining the program. Okay. So okay. Culavedalla Sutta. One of the first question posed by Isaac is what lady identity say what is called identity by the Blessed One. What did we learn? Sakai, no? What is Sakai or identity? What's that? Sakai is, what was the answer? Don't you remember from last week? What is Sakai?
5
Come on.
aggregates.
Huh? The
Talk
five
about the
aggregates.
5 aggregates.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
taking
Five
the
aggregates.
5 aggregates as me, mine, myself.
That's Sakai Ditti. What is Sakai? Sakai, what is
Just the 5 aggregates.
just
Yeah.
the five aggregates? Is Sakai. Why are the five aggregates called Sakai? Why is that? The reason. Sakai. Why is it called Sakai? The five aggregates. Like you were there, I remember you being there in the past, many of you. The reason why the five aggregates are called Sakai. No one? The
Basis of
reason why?
suffering.
Huh?
They're the basis of suffering.
No,
No.
that's not the answer. I'm looking. That's not the answer.
Because there's
Someone
nothing
else?
beyond.
Why are the five aggregates called Sakai? Yes, Ray, can you answer?
Because they're impermanent.
No.
Taking
Because
them as Nitya Sukha Subhata.
no. The answer is they are called Sakai because
They exist as a whole, Bhante.
yeah, that's the answer. They exist as a whole. They exist together. Okay? Not in isolation. The five aggregates, they exist together as a whole, which is why we say aggregate. That's the meaning of the word aggregate. When certain things come together as a whole, that's the meaning there. So that is why I say the five, we say in English the five aggregates of clinging, because they exist together as a whole. So the consciousness, when a person passes away, when a person dies, we say his consciousness passed on. No, that's how we say vinyane chutauna. So the consciousness passed on. So this is how we say. Though we say in this way, does that mean the consciousness passed on alone? No, that's
No,
not the
Bhante.
meaning.
All the 5.
Yeah, all the five aggregates, according to the karma, the force of the karma, it fares on together, because consciousness is immersed in the other four aggregates, the form, feeling, perception, and volition. It is because the consciousness is immersed in the other four aggregates. Say when we get angry, okay? Anger is something that manifests in your mind, isn't it so?
Yeah.
It manifests in your mind. Anger arises in your mind. But like, though it arises in your mind, what happens when you get angry? Don't your physical aspect change? Your
Yes.
face changes. And some people, they shiver, they tremble with anger. Isn't that
Yes.
so? Why is that? Because the consciousness, the mind, mentality, consciousness, all these three, they are the same. They are immersed in the body, the physical body. That is why we feel that. And think of food. If there are certain sweet things that you would really like to have, even when you talk about those things, what happens? Saliva comes to your mouth. No, your salivary glands are affected just by the thought alone. Why? Because the consciousness is immersed in the body, immersed in the form aggregate, immersed in the feeling, in the perception, in our thoughts, the volitional formations. That is why that happens. Even in the case when your mind is overwhelmed with lust, doesn't that affect your body? It does. So in this way, we have to understand the five aggregate, they do not exist in isolation, but they exist together as a whole. Okay, then we learned, we now, if we break down the word, pancha upadana khandha. So the term khandha, okay, we describe what is khandha. What was the definition we learned? Pancha is five, upadana is clinging, khandha,
Time,
what?
time and space, Bhante.
The
Yeah,
connection.
Distance.
Yeah.
the existence within time and space. So time means past,
Past, present, future.
future, and the present. How does the five aggregates, that is form, feeling, perception, volitional formations, and consciousness, how do they exist within this timeline? They exist in the space, no? They
Yes.
exist within the space. So how does they exist? Affected by time within the space. We discuss, no, how they exist. Anyone?
It's an internal, external.
Very good, Hariya, very good. Internal, external, ajjattava, bahiddava. Then,
Olarikawa sukumawa.
yeah, meaning grosso, subtle. Then,
Near or far.
Hinawa.
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 inferior, superior.
Superior.
Then near and
Far
far.
or near.
Far or near. So all of this, like these are the means by which these five aggregates exist in this world. So we learn what are, like, can someone give examples for the inferiority, the superiority, the subtle, the gross nature, the near and far, internal, external? Say how we'll discuss these things, no? Anyone? How is that? How do we understand that? So we learn that the devas, the form of a deva is superior to that of an human. Okay? And when compared to the Brahmas, still the devas are even inferior, the form. And also we have a gross form and the devas have a subtle form. And anything that is a form can be near or far, because like we are in the human world, whereas devas, they live far, far away. And the Brahmas even more. So near and far. So in this way, we have to understand within this time and space, there exist these five aggregates. Therefore, that's what we have to understand about the five aggregates or Panchupadana Khandha. That is the definition. So the five aggregates exist within time and space. So then the question was Sakai Samudaya, no? Isn't that so? Yeah, lady, origin of identity, origin of identity. He said, what is called the origin of identity by the Blessed One?
Craving.
Yeah, we learn craving to be the origin of identity.
Swami,
So,
was right? Swami,
yeah.
I have a question related to the previous part. Can you explain Ajjata Vedana and Bahijja Vedana?
Feelings?
Yeah.
Because all beings have feelings, no? Like we are like internal, we have feelings, and other beings also they have feelings. It's the nature of all feelings of any being is born of contact. There is arising and cessation. When the contact arises, there arise feeling. When the contact ceases, feeling ceases. Okay?
Swami knows about the Tathagata says that you have to, that we have to pajanat, we have to cognize the rise and cessation of the feeling, both ajjat and bahijja.
Yeah.
So if he relates it to someone else's feeling, so that then you cannot apply that way. So
that is why Buddha first said, in the Satipatthana Sutta, first focus on yourself. First ajhatta. Then once you realize yourself, then you have to apply the same principle to other. That is why this is very difficult. Like to realize one's own five aggregate and to also realize the five aggregates of a Brahma. Have you seen a Brahma? Have you seen a Deva even? That is why this wisdom, developing the wisdom, actually realizing the true nature of the five aggregates is so very difficult. Once you first apply this to yourself, then with that wisdom, you can see anything that is conditioned in this world, they exist because of a cause. And when the cause ceases, then the effect, the result ceases. That is why it's quite something, this realization. The first realization, even the stream entry, that's why it's very difficult. That is why it's very subtle. It is profound, that understanding. Once you realize yourself, that's why Buddha said, no, there was that once a Deva came, Deva came to the Buddha and said, this Deva asked the question from the Buddha, can we realize the end of the world? Can we cognize the end of the world, or can you find out the end of the world by traveling? Buddha said, no, you can't do that. Then the Deva said, yeah, it is very true. In the past life, I possess such and such abilities, whereas I can move very fast. Like he would have one foot on this world and the next foot he could keep on another world. Likewise, he would travel without stopping for many years. He only stopped for getting his meals and also to rest for a while. He continuously traveled throughout his life, but still he could not reach the end of the world. Said this, he was, I think, an ascetic who had spiritual powers in that past life, and still he could not reach the end of the world. He died without reaching the end of the world. He said, there are many more worlds that I could have reached if I had more lifespan. Buddha, it is very true, Buddha, what you say, that a person cannot find the end of the world by travel. Buddha said there is a way to find and realize the whole world, that is to realize yourself. These five aggregates that we have, that we consider to be me, mine, myself. If you realize yourself, you realize the whole world. So that is why it's something very profound. So that's how we have to understand with regard to both all the five aggregates, internal and external. Okay. Okay. Welcome. So what is the origin? The origin is craving. Sakai Samudaya. That is, craving is threefold. We learn. No, what are the threefold craving? Kama tanha.
Kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha.
Yeah, desire for sensual pleasures, desire for existence or bhava, and desire for non-existence,
Non-existence.
vibhava tanha. So we all desire sensual pleasures. As long as the desire for sensual pleasures are there, we will be reborn in the sensual realms. Because bhava pacchaya jati. Because of bhava, there comes what? Birth. So when you become a non-returner, you have fully eradicated all the desire for the sensual pleasures. All that is eradicated. So then you are not born in the sensual realms. You are not born in the human world. You are not born in the four bad destinations. You are not born in the Devasa. But still there is Bhavatanna and Vibhavatanna. So there you will be born in the form spheres and the formless spheres. So Bhavatanna is we like to exist. We like to exist because we like to experience the sensual pleasures. And we like the experience of this self. We have this consideration, this notion of self. So therefore we like to exist, Bhavatanna. Then there's Vibhavatanna. Then we despise our existence. When we suffer mentally and physically, that is why people suicide, because they are so very fed up of this existence. And because they don't see the cause and effect phenomena, because they think that we are suffering because of physical body or our mind, they just kill themselves, thinking that is the solution. But if you want to get rid of all the suffering, what you have to do is you have to eradicate the craving. the root cause of suffering. Other people, because they are not aware, they kill themselves, they commit suicide. Or some practice meditation so that they don't feel the body and the mind. So because when you can't feel your body and your mind, then there is certain bliss there, certain comfort and happiness. Just as the comfort you experience when you are in sleep. That's why you sleep, because not because you want to dream. It's because there is a comfort in sleep. You don't feel any physical or mental aspect at that moment. So there is some pleasure there. That is why we love to sleep. Similarly, when you practice meditation to train your mind to not feel your body and mind, by doing so, there is a certain craving that you nourish. That is vibhavatanha. So that creates also a karma that brings about birth in the non-percipient spheres where you don't perceive your mind or body. Okay? So in this way, we have to understand the cause of Sakai. Sakai samudaya is what? Craving. Okay? So, lady, cessation of identity. Cessation of identity is said. What is called the cessation of identity? So, if the cause is craving, how does it cease?
To get rid of craving.
Yeah, if with the remainderless fading away of craving. Friend Visaka, it is the remainderless fading away and ceasing, the giving up, relinquishing, letting go, and rejecting of the same craving. That is the cessation of identity. So then we discuss, lady, next question was the way leading to the cessation of identity. What is the way leading to the cessation of identity? What's the way?
8 paths.
The Noble Eightfold Path.
The
Noble
Noble
8
Eightfold
paths.
Path. Yeah. Then next question was, lady, is that clinging the same as the 5 aggregates affected by clinging, or is the clinging something apart from the 5 aggregates affected by clinging? So clinging means your desire you have toward the 5 aggregates of clinging, regarding the 5 aggregates clinging, the attachment to the 5 aggregates of clinging. That is the clinging there. Then we talked about Sakai Ditti, no? How does identity view comes to be? So what's the answer there? How does identity view, Sakai Ditti comes to be? Someone?
Instructed noble disciples, they think that the form is self, or self as possessing form.
Yeah.
And form as in self and self as in form. And same with other aggregates.
Very good. Likewise for the 5 aggregates. Anyway, in this 20-fold, we see a 20-fold self-view. There is with regard each with four ways by which you are deluded with regard to form. Likewise, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. 4 into 5, 20. Where you see a self, you consider there to be a self. So the self-view is Sakai Ditti. So how do you get rid of self-view? Sakai Ditti, by seeing they are conditioned. The form is conditioned. The form is made up of the 4 elements. Whereas the feeling aggregate is made up of what? Like condition? Because of what? Contact. Then perception, again born of contact. Volitional formation, born of contact. Consciousness, born of name and form. So then you understand these are all dependently originated. They exist because of a cause. When the cause is no more, then they cease to exist. So they are impermanent, they are subject to suffering, and they are non-self. So then the question Visakha posed to, lady, what is the Noble Eightfold Path? Which you know. Then next question was, lady, is the Noble Eightfold Path conditioned or unconditioned? What do you see?
Conditioned.
Condition. It is because they are conditioned that we can develop these 8 aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path within ourselves. The next question was, lady, are the aggregates included by the Noble Eightfold Path, or is the Noble Eightfold Path included by the three aggregates? What is the answer?
The Noble Eightfold Path is included in the three practices categories, three practice categories.
But the
No.
three aggregates are not included under the Noble Eight Paths. But the Noble Eight Paths are included under the three aggregates.
Yeah, the Noble Eightfold Path is made up of what the three aggregates: virtue, concentration, and wisdom. Okay. So the next question is, lady, what is ka? Now then this is where we stopped, we came to that point. So we will continue from that point on. Next question was, lady, what is concentration? What is the basis of concentration? What is the equipment of concentration? That is, what are the requisites for concentration? What is the development of concentration? Something that's very important. So like, we all have to develop concentration, have to develop samadhi. Why? It is when you have developed samadhi, it is in a state of samadhi that you are capable to understand the reality of anything. If you want to understand the reality of the five aggregates, its conditioned phenomena, you do so in a concentrated mind, with a concentrated mind, where the hindrances are subdued. Because we are ignorant of the true reality of the five aggregates of clinging. What is the true reality? They are conditioned. There are things that we cannot exercise control over. We cannot consider them to be me, mine, myself. Not knowing this is our ignorance. And ignorance is fueled by what? The five hindrances. So as long the 500 hindrances are prominent in the mind, they are fueled by your actions, you cannot realize the truth of life. You cannot realize the reality. When you practice meditations, the five hindrances lose their nourishment. They weaken and they get subdued. And gradually you develop a state of samadhi. Even in the first jhana, it is described, viviccheva kamehi, viviccheva akusalehi dhammehi. Okay, that means there are no, at that moment, the mind is free of the five hindrances. So even in that first jhanic state, you can realize the truth. Buddha said, if you are wise enough, a wise person can attain arahantship. Then and there you can get rid of all the craving, even in the first jhana alone, by practicing vipassana. So it's very important that you understand how to develop the samadhi, and these questions give some tips. So what is concentration? So this is the answer given by Bhikkhu Dhammadinna. Unification of mind, friend Visakha, is concentration. Concentration is unification of the mind. One-pointedness of the mind. So in simple terms, that means that you focus your mind on a single wholesome object. That object can be loving kindness. That object can be impermanence. That object can be focusing on the foulness of the mind. That object can be contemplating on death. That object can be contemplating on the qualities of the Buddha, qualities of the Dhamma, qualities of the Sangha. So in this way, you single out one wholesome object and you keep focusing on that. Okay? So that is that is concentration. So if you can focus in that manner with unwavering, like where your mind does not wander, your skill, your ability to keep on focusing on that wholesome object, that is concentration, that is samadhi. That's the whole idea of developing concentration. You pick a wholesome object and you focus upon that without letting your mind wander. So in the beginning, if you are a beginner to meditation, what happens when you try to focus on a wholesome object? What do you notice? If you're mindful, you notice what?
The mind's always jumping.
Yeah, your mind wanders. Then what you have to do is you drag it back
Mhm.
to the focus of meditation. Okay? If you are mindful, you will realize it quickly. In the beginning, when you realize, it has taken maybe half an hour, you have like dozed off. These things happen, no? You don't realize even. But when your mindfulness gradually, it heightens, it develops, that time span of realization will get minimum. Like if you took it like 2-3 minutes to realize that you have wandered from your meditative object, you will do so in 2 minutes. Gradually 1 minute, it will lessen. So the minute your mind wanders, you can again refocus your mind to the meditative object. So that happens when your mindfulness, yes, Ray.
So
Okay.
focusing on your breath is not a wholesome, like focusing on your breath and then you focus later on a wholesome object? Because you never mentioned focusing on your breath for meditation, for concentration.
Yeah, like I have given some examples. So focusing on breath is also one thing. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
It's
Yes.
also wholesome object. So anyway, when your mind wanders, you get it back to the meditative object. So if you are able to, for a prolonged time, keep your mind without letting it wander, focus on that meditative object for a long time, then you have a heightened state of concentration. When you continue it, then you will attain first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, likewise. Okay. So that is concentration. Then the next question is, what is the basis of concentration? The 4 foundations of mindfulness are the basis of concentration. It is based upon the 4 bases of mindfulness. Kayanupassana, focusing on the body. Mindfulness on the body. Vedananupassana, focusing on the feelings, present, unpresent, neutral. Chittanupassana, focusing on the mind states.
Mind.
And Dhammanupassana, mental phenomena, the Dhamma, the 5 aggregate, the 6 senses, the 4 noble truths, the 4 elements, focusing on these, that's Dhammanupassana. So these are the basis upon which you develop concentration. Okay?
Sir.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Is there a relationship between ekagrata, sati and samadhi, Swaminans? Unification.
Sorry?
Yeah, yes, Swaminans. Ekagrata, unification
yes.
of mind, and then sati and samadhi. So,
you practice ekagrata or the unification of the mind, then you achieve samadhi. Sati is mindfulness. Based on mindfulness, you practice unification of the mind, by which you achieve concentration or samadhi. That's how they link up. Okay.
So actually, what happens is, like when you think about first the sati and then ekagrata and then samadhi comes, is it?
Yeah,
I
like
ekagrata is also always there, right?
No, it's not always there. It is something you have to practice. So like right concentration, with regard to right concentration, Buddha pointed out 3 factors. No, when you want to develop right concentration, you have to have right view, samadhi. Then there has to be right effort, samma vayama. Then there has to be right mindfulness, samma sati. All 3 has to be there. With right view, you discern between the wholesome and unwholesome, and mindfully you abandon the unwholesome and you focus on the wholesome. You instill yourself in the wholesome. And there is right mindfulness, then right effort. Then gradually you achieve right concentration, samadhi. Okay, that's how it happens. So next question is, what are the requisites for concentration? The requisites, what's that? The 4 right kinds of striving are the equipment or the requisites for concentration, for striving. That is why I said this right effort. If you want to achieve right concentration, there has to be right effort. So that means, what are the 4 kinds of striving? Someone tell?
Having the effort to remove unwholesome thoughts from your mind that have not arisen, and then the unwholesome thoughts that have arisen, having the effort to remove those.
Yeah.
Then the third one, any wholesome thoughts that have not arisen in the mind, you make the effort to arise them in the mind. And any wholesome thoughts that have arisen in the mind, you make the effort to maintain those wholesome thoughts.
Very good, Mal. So those are the 4 kinds of striving. So to strive in this manner, you have to first understand what is wholesome and what is unwholesome. That is where right view comes in. So with right view, you understand. With right effort, you abandon and you develop. And you do so mindfully. Then there's right mindfulness. That is why to develop right concentration, there has to be right view, right effort, and right mindfulness. We learned this in which sutta? Did I discuss this sutta with you?
Mahachattari.
I think we discussed, did we?
Yes,
Maybe.
one day we did. Yeah. The great body, yes.
Yeah. So in this way, you develop concentration. These are the requisites, the 4-fold striving, the requisites for right concentration. Then the next question is, what is the development of concentration? What does it mean to develop concentration? So the answer is the repetition, the development and cultivation of these same states is the development of concentration. So developing concentration means to engage in this again and again as a habit. You have to do it again and again. That is why Buddha says, if you want to develop samadhi, you have to engage in it in the morning, in the afternoon, and also night. So it has to be part and parcel thing of your life. So if you want to meditate, at least you have to meditate, say, for half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the afternoon, and also at night. So gradually in this way, you can condition your mind. And because then you are all the time subduing the hindrances. So meditation becomes easy when you do so. So then you can, over time, achieve right concentration, samadhi. Like these are things you can achieve even as a lay person. You can attain jhanas. Depends on your commitment, on your past merits and your wisdom. Okay. So next question is, lady, how many formations are there? Formations. Are you familiar with, like, formation has a broad meaning actually. In the context of the Dhamma, in the Dhamma, we come across this the word in Pali, the sankhara. There are many meanings given to the word sankhara in the teachings of the Buddha. Okay. So we will discuss some of the meanings. Okay. Buddha applied for the word sankhara. In the Pancha Upadanaskandha, this is how sankhara is explained. Okay. Chaime bhikkave chetana kaya, rupa sanchetana, saddha sanchetana, gandha sanchetana, rasa sanchetana, pottabba sanchetana, dhamma sanchetana, ime uchanti bhikkave sankhara. This is the definition given to sankhara with regard to the 5 aggregates. So in the 5 aggregates, sankhara means volition. Volitional formations, we say. The thoughts. So rupa sanchetana means the thoughts you have about forms. Saddha sanchetana, thoughts about sounds. Gandha sanchetana, thoughts about smells, thoughts about taste, thoughts about contact, what you feel. Okay, and Dhamma sanchetana is thoughts about the mind objects, thoughts about the things you think. So these are all what? Volitional formations. That is one meaning of the word sankhara, or the meaning given for formations. That is with regard to only the 5 aggregates. That is the definition therein. Okay. Then we come across another instance in the suttas where Buddha says, Sabbe sankhara anicchati yada panyaya passati. There again we come across the word sankhara. But in that instance, it has a different meaning. There sankhara means that all things that are conditioned, all things that are impermanent, sabbe sankhara anicchati, they are called sankhara, impermanent things, the conditioned phenomena, all of it together we call sankhara. That's another definition. And also we come across in the suttas where Buddha explains sankhara in this manner. Avijja sampassajena bhikkave vedaitena puttasa uppajjitanna tato jo sankharo. So a person with ignorance, okay, when he comes into contact and when he feels something, there arises craving. So here Buddha says that a craving that arises there, Buddha here defined as sankhara. That is also sankhara. That is a conditioned thing. Why? There arose craving because of contact. Contact gave rise to feeling, and because of feeling there arose craving. So with that meaning, there also Buddha says, uses the word sankhara. In that context, it's for craving that Buddha used. Then we come across another instance in the Dhamma, in the Parivimansana Sutta, where Buddha explains sankhara in this way. Avijjagato yang bhikkave purisapuggalo punyang che sankharang abhisankaroti punyopagang hoti viññāna. Apunyang che sankharang abhisankaroti apunyopagang hoti viññāna. Āneññang che sankharang abhisankaroti āneñjupagang hoti viññāna. Which makes a person, where there is still ignorance within that person, if he were to do a meritorious deed, his consciousness is affected by that meritorious deed. Okay? Because when you do a certain act, there is always, like when you experience the world as it is, we experience through the 6 senses. When you see a form, there arises consciousness in the eye. When you hear a sound, there arises consciousness in the ear. Likewise, with regard to the 6 senses, there is the arising of the consciousness. So when you act upon certain things, when you do a meritorious deed, your consciousness is affected. Okay? Do you remember that instance? See how the consciousness is affected? Like there was that instance where, this is in, I think it's in Arunavati Sutta, also in the Lokadhatu Viññāpana Sutta, where Buddha talked of a past disciple of, I think, Kassapa Buddha. His name was Abhibhu, one of the foremost disciples. He had the ability to talk from the Brahma world. He gave a Dhamma discourse that were heard from all the 10,000 world systems. Just his voice, it was that loud. And then Ananda Swami wanted to know, Buddha, what is your ability? This is with regard to a disciple of a former Buddha. So what is the ability of the Buddha? Buddha said the ability of a Buddha is limitless. So Buddha can talk that so that it can be heard to the Dvisasi Lokadhatu, Trisasi Lokadhatu, many thousands of world systems. There is no end to describing that. And so at that moment, say, who Venerable Ananda Swami was so elated, so delighted, thinking of the Buddha's ability, that Buddha said, this moment, the delight that arose in the mind of Ananda is, that alone is enough to give him birth. As I remember, like 7 times as God Sakka, and many more times in the Devas world, many more times as a king. Likewise, there is a huge explanation there. I don't quite remember the numbers. So likewise, that is how this mind is affected, the consciousness is affected for with regard to good and bad. So that was a meritorious thought. a wholesome thought that they arouse in the mind of Ananda. But see the results for a split second even, it is so very huge, the benefits, the results. So in this way we have to understand here punyabi sanskara. When you do a meritorious deed, your consciousness is affected and accordingly there will be come results. Okay, then it is said here punyopagang hoti vinya apunyang ve sankarang abhisang. It is a evil deed, it is a demeritorious act. Again your consciousness is affected and accordingly there will be the consequences, the karma. So then aninja che sankarang abhisankaroti. Then in a meditative state, if you are developing jhana, first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, again, then accordingly your consciousness is affected therein also. And accordingly there will be created karma which bring about birth in the form spheres or formless spheres. Okay, they are called aninjabi sankara. So this is another definition for the word sankhara. Okay. So then there is another definition in the Kajjaniya Sutta. We come across this definition. So kincha bhikkave sankhare vadeta sankatang abhisankaronti iti bhikkave tasma sankharanti uchyati. With the meaning that this sankhara, these conditioned things, again conditions something that is also conditioned. That is why it says sankhara vadeta sankatang abhisankaronti iti bhikkave. Sankhara means sankata is something that is conditioned. So form is a sankata. That is sankata. What is the nature of a sankata? Sankata means something that is conditioned. So nature of something conditioned is there is an
Upada tiri vaya.
Yeah, there is an arising to be seen, there is a cessation to be seen, and there is a change in the existence to be seen. Okay, there is a rising, there is a cessation, and in between there is to be seen a change in the existence. So that is sankata. So such a thing is form. A form is a sankata. Feeling is a sankata. Perception is a sankata. Formations, original formations is a sankata. Consciousness is a sankata. So these sankata are able to bring about the arising of another sankata. How does that happen? So think of the feeling. Because of feeling there arises craving. Vedana pacca tanna. Tanna pacca upadana. Because of feeling there arises clinging. Upadana pacca bhava. Because of clinging there arises bhava. Bhava pacca jati. Then you are born. When you born, what you get again? Again a form. Again a feeling. Again a perception. Again a consciousness. There is another arising of the five aggregates. That is why Buddha said, because the conditioned thing again bring about the arising of another conditioned thing. That is why here it says, this is how it is Pali, Rupang Rupattaya Sankatang Abhisankaranti. The form again give rise to another form. Feeling again give rise to another feeling. Perception again give rise to another perception. Volitional formations give rise to again a volitional formation. Consciousness give rise to again a consciousness. Vedanang vedanattaya sankatang abhisankaranti. Sanya sanyattaya sankatang abhisankaranti. Sankare sankarattaya sankatang abhisankaranti. Vinyanang vinyanattaya sankatang abhisankaranti. Sankatang abhisankaranti bhikkave tasma sankarati uchyati. With this meaning, it is called sankhara. That is another definition for sankhara. Yeah, a conditioned things bring about another conditioned thing. Therefore, it is sankhara. Like who have here read the book Dependent Origination? Dependent Origination book of Loksainga, Vismita about the English translation?
Yes, I did something.
Okay. Anyone else you haven't read? So in that this you come across this translation or the English translation. We put a lot of effort to translate in that correctly so that you can understand. If you didn't quite clearly understand this, how sankatang, like how a conditioned thing brings about the birth arising of another conditioned thing, you can read that book, Dependent Origination. In that it is clearly translated. You can read and understand what that means if it is not clear enough. So in this way, in the Dhamma, so like I am surprised to actually hear that you have not read the book. Only Linda has read the book. Have you not yet seen the book? Once who has
Just one.
seen the book, once who has seen the book, hands up. Ah, you have seen, you have not read. You have to read it. Like it's a beautiful book. I think maybe we can learn dependent origination also in the Dhamma class maybe later on. So you will be more encouraged or inspired to read the book.
Bhante,
Yeah, you know what Lokasana has told about that book? He said, like he's the author. He himself had read the book maybe 15 or 16 times, he had told us. Because all that you find in the book, it's Dhamma content, it's the words of the Buddha. And Buddha, I remember Lokasana saying that it is like a mirror that reflects your wisdom. So you can gauge how wise you are by reading this book again and again. How much to what extent you can grasp the teachings of the Buddha. And you can actually develop your wisdom by reading that book again and again, because to put together such a book to explain dependent origination in such a clear manner, by giving examples from the suttas, picking out the right suttas, singling out the exact suttas, it's very difficult. So we have that all that put together, and like it's like you've been served the best food in the world, the delicious food, it's all there. It's been served to you, but still you don't eat it. So you just seen and like some have seen it. So that's all. So you have to eat like and feel its sweetness. Because the Dhamma is the sweetest thing in the world, no? Buddha said. So please read the book so you can have a very clear knowledge. This clear knowledge of the Dhamma is very important, particularly with regard to dependent origination. If you want to realize the Dhamma, you have to have a clear knowledge of the dependent origination phenomena. Because Buddha
Bhante,
said, yes.
how do you spell the author?
Sorry?
How do you spell the author's name?
It's our teacher, Venerable Kiribadgoda Jnanananda Thero. Spelling it means G. Kiribadgoda is K. I. So Arjuna Mali, can you type it out on the chat for everyone? The name of Luxanga. So maybe put the link from Amazon there. So anyone who wants to buy can buy there, no? So the link will be in the chat. Okay,
Thank
for
you.
all of you. So you can purchase from Amazon. The book is there.
Swami Nasa Terosa, right? The meaning of Rupataya, for the Rupang Rupataya Sankatang Abhisankaroti, the meaning, what I get it, so it's like this, as example now for the clay, in terms of clay, to call it as clay or for being it clay, for clay to be clay,
why
it is Sankatang Abhisankaroti.
Why clay?
No, I'm saying as example, Swami Nasa, rather than saying that for clay to be a plate or clay to, for example, if you make a plate out of clay, so if you see a plate, so I'm bringing examples, Swami Nasa. So this is why I'm thinking for something like for a patavi, for it to be patavi, formation happening, rather than to make something out of pottery. So then the Vedanataya Sankatang Abhisankaroti. Even the Sankhara Sankarataya Sankatang Abhisankaroti. So that is the way I understand it, Swami Nasa. Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah. Like first thing, you can't apply this to anything other than the 5 aggregates, because this is specific. It is with regard to only the 5 aggregates. Buddha said this. So Rupang Rupataya Sankatang Abhisankaroti means for form to be another form. Form to be form. like here we have a form. Okay, so because we have an attachment to this form, where we consider this form, we crave for this form, there will be rebirth. Okay, because with upadana there is bhava, with bhava there is jati, rebirth. Once you are reborn, there will be again a form, gross or subtle, superior, inferior, near, far, whatever form, you will get a form. So that means this form gave rise to another form. With that meaning, it is called sankhara. That's what you have to understand. There is a feeling, whatever feeling we have here, it gives rise to another feeling in another birth. So this ability for that to happen, so this phenomena, it is called sankhara. Therefore, that is how you have to understand it. Is that clear enough? Okay.
Yeah, I understand so much that, but I was thinking about like a then and there, like instantly, each moment is a there is 5 aggregates are forming each moment. So I was taking those 5 aggregates each moment. If you take one of the aggregates like rupa, so formation of the next rupa, now I'm seeing you now. So that formation, there is sankatang abhisankarati. So there is a formation to see you as a monk. So that way I was taking this, like that, because Tathagata says to see the rise and cessation then and there, like yatha bhuta, in yatha bhuta manner. So I don't have English word for this. So
yeah, I understand. I see. So like in our existence, we are always creating karma. Like karma means things that will bear fruit in future. Arranging of karma to bear fruit is there. That is what we call bhava. So all this is happening each instance, all the time. There is arranging of karma to bear fruit. That's bhava. Then bhava patya jati. Because of bhava, there is rebirth. And again, you come. There is that is why I say khandanam patu bhava. That is why Buddha explains how Buddha explains birth, the manifestation of the 5 aggregates. So this phenomena, this thing that again the 5 aggregates are manifested, with that meaning Buddha uses the word say sankhara. That is another meaning to word sankhara, the Pali term. Okay. So we come across another instance, another meaning, another definition for sankhara in the Vibhanga Sutta. So there Buddha explains sankhara as kaya sankhara, vaci sankhara, and chitta sankhara. Kaya sankhara means in-breath and out-breath, the breathing. Vaci sankhara is what?
Vitakka vichara? Vitakka vichara, Swaminatha?
Sorry?
Vitakka vichara, Swaminatha?
Vitakka vichara, yeah. Implied and applied thought. Okay. And then what? Chitta sankhara is what? Sanya vedana, perception and feeling. So this is the answer given here. With regard to this sutta, in this discussion, Bhikkhu Dhammadinna says the meaning of formation or meaning of sankhara is what? Kaya sanskara, chitta sanskara, vaci sanskara, and chitta sanskara. That is verbal formation, bodily formation, and mental formation. Okay. So then again, the next question is, but lady, what is the bodily formation? What is the verbal formation? What is the mental formation? So in-breathing and out-breathing, friend Visakha, are the bodily formation. Applied thought and sustained thought are the verbal formation. Perception and feeling are the mental formation. Okay, that is the answer there. The next question is, but lady, why are in-breathing and out-breathing the bodily formation? Why? Why in-breathing and out-breathing are the bodily formation?
Because they are tied up to the body.
Very good, Harry. Because in breathing and out breathing, these states are bound up with the body. Okay, that is why it is called kaya sanskara or bodily formation. What is the verbal formation? What is verbal formation? Verbal formation is vitaka vichara, applied and sustained. Why applied and thought and sustained thought verbal formation? Why so? Why is they are called, they are thoughts, no? But still they are called verbal formations. Why is that?
Because we form our thought before we speak up. I think that's it.
Yeah, because we think.
We
Before
form.
Yeah, we think before we speak. Like there is a thinking process going on. But like you might not like, because this when you speak in your native language, okay, you might not realize that. When you try to learn in a language that you are not familiar with, then you find it difficult to speak, no? Because in your mind you have to translate, then speak. So when you actually learn a new language, they tell you to read in that language, speak in that language, write in that language, and they ask you to think in that language. The applied and sustained thought has to be trained so that you can talk fluidly in that language, because it is a native for you. Like it may be native, like to speak in the English language is native. So if you are, then you don't translate, so you don't quite feel like that is going on. But we always think. That is why we think and we do not say certain things, though we think. The thinking happens first, and so we don't talk everything that we comes to our mind. We don't express like then and there. Only the things that we think we can speak out, we speak. Okay, so there is first this formation, then only you talk. So that is why it is called chitta sanskara. Sorry, verbal formations. Okay, vati sanskara. Okay, then what is chitta sanskara or mental formation? Why are perception and feeling the mental formations? Why are called so? Why are they called mental formations?
Because they are tied up to the mind.
Yeah, they are tied up to the mind. Sanya, perception and feeling. They are nama dharma, no? Like they are nama, name. With regard to name, nama rupa, we come across vedana, sanya, chetana, passa, manasikara. So therefore, they are called mental formations. If you don't understand, you have to ask, okay, anyone. Like if you don't understand.
Can I
Yes.
ask a question?
Yes, sure.
Swaminathan, this is like the Kaya Vachi and this Chitta Sankara that we are now discussing.
Yeah.
That's the exactly when we say Avidya Patya Sankara.
Yeah.
That Sankara, we have these three.
These three. That is something
In the
very
dependent origination, Paticcasamuppada, we have.
Yeah, independent origination in Paticcasamuppada. When we say Avidya Patya Sankara, it is these three: Kaya Sanskara, Vati Sanskara, Chitta Sanskara. Or in other words, it's in breath and out breath. Then it's applied and sustained thought, and it is perception and feeling. That is Sankara, they are independent origination. And it is that answer that is given here by Bhikkhu, like Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna. Okay.
Swaminathan, another question there. So in Paticcasamuppada, also there we have Vedana, no? Vedana Pacha, the clinging and Upadana, all these coming. So Vedana is also like one wisdom. Swaminathan, now within Chitta Sankara also we have Sanya and Vedana.
Yeah, like there you have to consider it as a whole. Like if person where he a person a person who have not fully realized the dependent origination, there is breathing. Okay, there is in breath and out breath. There is this thought process that we call vitakka vichara. Then there is perception and feeling. So that is why Buddha says there that avidya patya sankara, they are affected. So they are the sankara we have to we are talking of the formations, not in singling out the feeling alone. Then later on, because this is something that's continuously happening within us, but we, for the purpose of learning, we are talking because of this is there, because of the, because moment you get rid of ignorance, all this cease to exist. But for the purpose of understanding, we talk about the cause, we talk about the effect, the result. Likewise, like say, we have to say, like, when they fall, they all fall. When they cease, they all cease. But for the sake of understanding, this is how Buddha has said, because avijja paccaya sankara, sankara paccaya vijnana, and we have to just take it as it is with confidence and contemplate as to how Buddha asked, because Buddha first, he asked to begin where? Jati. Why are we born? No? We have to focus there. When we suffer, because once you are born, we suffer. Why do we suffer? Normally, when we suffer, what do you think? That person did this to me. I am suffering because of that. I am suffering. We are blaming the world or a person or the surroundings for our suffering. But what is the reason for that? Birth is the reason. Then what is the reason for birth?
Power.
Bhava.
Reaching of
What is the reason for bhava? Upadana. Reason for upadana? Tanha. Reason for tanha? Feeling. Reason for feeling? Contact. Reason for contact? Passa. What is the reason for
Consciousness.
contact? Yeah. Likewise, when you gradually comes to the beginning. So that is how you have to contemplate upon the dependent origination. So that's how you have to understand it. Okay.
Yes,
Oh, then, lady, how does attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling come to be? Sanya Vedaita Nirodha Samapatti. A certain attainment, a state of samadhi, where perception and feeling ceases. So this is the answer. Friend Visaka, when a bhikkhu is attaining the cessation of perception and feeling, it does not occur to him. So see, the question here is, Visaka is asking, how do you attain this state of samadhi? That is Sanya Vedita Nirodha Samapatti. How do you attain that? So the way to attain this, when it is asked, the answer is, when a bhikkhu is attaining this attainment of cessation of perception and feeling, it does not occur to him, I shall attain the cessation of perception and feeling, or I am attaining the cessation of perception and feeling, or I have attained the cessation of perception and feeling. But rather his mind has previously been developed in such a way that it leads him to that state. Because his mind is developed, he can just, by willing, just attain that state of samadhi. That means not every person can attain the Nirodha Samapatti. That means the attainment of cessation of perception and feeling. Only a non-returner or arahant. That means even in a non-returner, he should have developed the jhanas up to the 8 jhanas, the form jhanas and the formless jhanas. Okay? And even in arhat, then wisdom he has to develop at least the state of a non-returner. So, even in the case of arahants, not every arahant is capable of achieving the 8 attainments. Okay? Some have only achieved the 4 jhanas. So for you to attain Nirodha Samapatti, the attainment of cessation of perception and feeling, you should have developed samadhi, the all 8 jhanas, and wisdom at least to state of a non-returner. Okay, so for such a person, just by, he doesn't have to think, I shall attain, or I am attaining, I have attained. No, his mind is so developed that he can attain at his will. So next question is, lady, when a bhikkhu is attaining the cessation of perception and feeling, which state sees first in him? The bodily formation, the verbal formation, or the mental formation? What do you think?
Verbal.
So mental formation, then verbal, then bodily. When he's coming out of the.
No, when you attain, when
When you attain the other way.
Yeah. First the cessation of the perception and feeling. First the verbal formation cease, okay? First, then the what comes there? In breath and out breath. Then finally there ceases what? Perception and feeling. So that's the order there. Okay. First vitaka vichara. Okay. They cease, then the bodily formation, then mental formation. Then lady, how does emerges from the attention of the cessation of perception and feeling comes to be? So the reverse order. When Visaka, when a bhikkhu is emerging from Nirodha Samapatti, okay? The attainment of cessation of perception and feeling, it does not occur to him, I shall emerge. Okay? That doesn't occur to him. Or he doesn't occur, I am emerging from this attainment. I have emerged from this. His mind is such developed that he can just lead to that state of emergence. Rather, his mind has previously been developed in such a way that it leads him to that state. So then it is asked, lady, when a bhikkhu is emerging from that attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, which states arise first in him? The bodily formation, the verbal formation, or the mental formation? So here the reverse is true. When a bhikkhu is emerging from Nirodha Samapatti, first first we see the cessation of the perception and feeling, then the mental formation, then bodily formations. Okay? First he feels. When Visaka, when a bhikkhu is emerging from the attainment of the cessation of perception feeling, first the mental formations arise. Sanya and Vedana. Perception and feeling arise. Then the bodily formation. Then in-breath and out-breath arises. Then the verbal formation. Then the applied and sustained thought arise in the mind. So that's how you gradually emerge from Nirodha Samapatti. So that means even though your breathing stops when you attain, your perception and feelings, they cease. So next question is, lady, when a bhikkhu has emerged from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, how many concept contact touching? When you emerge from Nirodha Samapatti, how many contacts touch a person? Friend Visaka, when a bhikkhu has emerged from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, 3 kinds of contact touching. Voidness contact, that is sunyata. Sunyata means the emptiness, void. Empty of what? Because this is a person who has developed at least wisdom to the state of non-returner. Or an arhat. So sunyata there means that they see this being, this existence is empty of a self. There is no self to be found. That is the voidness there. So when he emerged from the state of samadhi, now for us in our state of existence, like we think of us in the first jhana or second jhana or whatever, the moment we emerge from that, what do we feel? We cling to the 5 agdayas, no? We cling and there is the whole formations accordingly. But in the case of a non-return or arhat, the moment they emerge, what do they come to contact? The truth, the reality of life. What is the reality? The emptiness, the voidness of a self. To see how, like these things we can't experience, but you can be happy, the state, the spiritual happiness you can gain by practicing this noble path, the teachings of the Buddha. So when they emerge from this Nirodha Samapatti, the first thing that they come to contact, one of the 3 is the voidness, the sunyata, the emptiness of a self. So next is singleness contact. Sunyata, that is we call animitta. Animitta means you see that there are no within you any signs of what? Greed, anger, or delusion. You see that. That is the next thing you come to touch it. Then we say appanihita. Appanihita means desireless contact, that you know, you understand, you realize that you are free of greed, anger, and delusion. That's the next thing you realize. So that is, see how pure that life is. how pure.
So, Manas, can you tell the second thing, the animit in English? What is it?
English term there is singleness, like where animitta. Why there is singleness in the same? There is no. It should be not singleness, correct? It should
It's
be
the
means there is no signs.
signless one.
Huh?
Signless, emptiness, signless,
Signless.
and
Signless is
undirected one.
that's the translation. Sorry, my mistake. Signless. No sign. Animitta. Nimittak nahi in single. That means signless. So signless is the translation. Therefore, animitta. Appanihita means there is no desireless contact. That is the translation there. That means actually no attachment to greed, anger, and delusion. Okay, that is not there. So next question is, lady, when a bhikkhu has emerged from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, toward does his mind incline? Toward does it lean? Toward does it tend? So like the inclination of the mind when you emerge from this Nirodha Samapatti. Friend Visaka, when a bhikkhu has emerged from the attainment of the cessation of perception and feeling, his mind inclines to seclusion. Leans to seclusion, tends to seclusion. Viveka nitya, viveka ninnang, viveka ponang, viveka pabharang. So there is an inclination to seclusion. So very peaceful state of mind. Because the mind, when you are an unreturn or arhat, your mind is free of the defilements, free of the fetters. So how peaceful, no? That exists, that life, that experience, that spiritual happiness. It cannot be gained by any other means. Think like, say, we derive pleasure from sensual pleasures, don't we? Like, think you listen to music for 1 hour or so. Don't you feel fatigue thereafter? By watching a film even, there is a fatigue. Because they are connected with the gross pleasure. These are the subtle, the refinest pleasures in the world. Spiritual bliss. So we can't fathom the happiness there. We just have to have confidence and develop, and one day these are things we can experience as a disciple of the Buddha. If we practice diligently, it can be in this life, next life. Somehow, if we are committed, one day we can realize this. So we have to be hita pahadaganna. We say in English, you don't find a word for that. You can't express that in English. To have a state of happiness, a delight towards the teachings of the Buddha. To rejoice in the teacher. To be like, you can't express certain things. The language, like, you know, language is supported by the culture. Like the English language doesn't have that culture. So we have like coin words in English to actually define the Dhamma. Coin words means that you put together certain two terms to give a certain meaning. So they are coined. So that's why, like, when you actually go through the suttas, it's like a different subject. So this is what called Buddhist hybrid English. That's why it's not as heartfelt. So, but you have to not, you should not give up. If you can learn in single, it's nice. You can read the Lokusan's book. But still the Dhamma, Buddha said you can learn in any language. That doesn't matter. It's a matter of your commitment. If reading again and again and trying to understand. So Bhikkhu Bodhi sign translations are very good. So, and also now we are having some suttas translated. We have our own website online. So sutta.mahame, you know, the English, right? Sutta Friends, no? Sutta Friends. You can follow that. So anyhow, learn again and again and try to be fond of the Dhamma. Okay. So next question is, lady, how many kinds of feeling are there? Friend Visaka, there are 3 kinds of feeling: pleasant feeling, painful feeling, and neither painful nor pleasant feeling. You are familiar, no? Pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neither painful nor pleasant feeling. So next question is, but lady, what is pleasant feeling? What is painful feeling? What is neither painful nor pleasant feeling? Friend Visaka, whatever is felt bodily or mentally as pleasant and soothing is pleasant feeling. Any feeling, whether it be mental or physical, that is pleasant feeling. Whatever is felt bodily or mentally as painful, that is painful feeling. Whatever is felt bodily or mentally as neither soothing nor hurting is neither painful nor pleasant feeling. So next question is, lady, what is pleasant and what is painful in regard to pleasant feeling? Do you understand the question there? What is pleasant and what is painful in regard to pleasant feeling? What is painful and what is pleasant in regard to painful feeling? What is pleasant and what is painful in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling? What is the pleasing factor you find in pleasant feeling? What is the pleasure there in pleasant feeling?
Sukha Somanasa is
The Sukha Somanasa, what is the Sukha? What is the pleasantness there? What is the pleasantness there? The answer is actually the pleasantness in the pleasant feeling means it exists, it's prolonged existence. You know, when there is pleasant feeling, it exists, it prolongs. That is the pleasure there. So that is a pleasantness in the pleasant feeling. Pleasant feeling is a pleasant when it persists and painful when it changes. The pain is there, it's change. It doesn't last forever. So that change is the pain there. That's the danger. The gratification there is actually what? The persistence of that pleasant feeling. That's the gratification. That's the pleasing nature. So the pain there is, it won't last. It is impermanent. That's the pain, okay? So with regard to the painful feeling, what is painful and what is pleasant in regard to the painful feeling? What is the pain in painful feeling? Then it also persists, no? If a pain persists, it's a burden, no? What is the pleasing nature of painful feeling? It don't last forever neither. Pain also ceases. If you are sick, then there is pain. When you get well, then pain is no longer there. So with regard to pleasant feeling, say a person who have practiced, who for the first time in his life attain a state of samadhi, a bliss, a happiness he or she has not experienced before. So he would be so happy. Would it last forever? Then the next moment when he loses that samadhi state, then there is pain. So that is how you have to understand. With regard to a pleasant feeling, its persistence is the pleasure there. Pain there is, it is also impermanent. With regard to pain feeling, the persistence is the pain there. The pleasing nature of it is that too is impermanent. So what is pleasant and what is painful in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling? So neither painful, we say neither painful nor pleasant feeling is present when there is knowledge of it. Only if there is realization of equanimity or upekka, there is a pleasure. And painful when there is no knowledge of it. Okay? Like we realized the true nature of the upekka feeling, the feeling of equanimity, or the feeling of neither pleasant or unpleasant nature. No. We are deluded. So we can't derive a real pleasure through upekka. Only a person who has realized the nature of that feeling has knowledge of that, can derive true pleasure there. That's the meaning there, okay? So lady, what underlying tendency underlies pleasant feeling? What underlying tendency underlies painful feeling? What underlying tendency underlies neither painful nor pleasant feeling? With regard to pleasant feeling, what is the underlying tendency there?
Raga Nusayo.
Raga anusaya. Okay? That is the underlying tendency of lust. Lust is there. With regard to pleasant. Unpleasant feeling, what is the underlying tendency there? Unpleasant feeling?
Resistance, obsession.
Patigga Nusayo.
Patiganusaya. What is patiganusaya? Aversion, no?
Question.
Aversion is there. Underlying tendency of ignorance. Sorry, underlying tendency of neither present and
Ignorance.
ignorance, no? That is the tendency there. Okay.
Swaminathan, Saman Swaminathan,
Yeah.
the English word they use for the anusaya, I'm thinking it's wrong, Swaminathan, because the underlying the tendency, that word is for asrava, not for anusaya.
After the term is proclivity. Proclivity.
The meaning of anusaya is like subtle thoughts in the mind which we are not aware all the time. So in bit,
The names of Anusaya means they would like they are in the surface and they affect what happens. That is why I say underlying tendency, the inclination is there. That is why I say Anusaya. For asa we use the word proclivity. That is the like best word I've come across so far of many translations. I like that term for proclivity.
can you tell it again?
Proclivity. That's PROCLIVITY. Proclivity.
Bhante,
Yeah.
sometimes it is translated as taints.
Tense is
or-
okay. Tense, asa tense, that's also okay. That's I think more used, even proclivity. But the proclivity has a good meaning, I feel. Taint is more generally used for that. So that's also okay. No, what matters is to understand the workings of these things, rather than like you have to understand what this means, how Buddha defined that term. That's what's important. Okay.
Bhante, I have a question
Yes.
regarding the neither pleasant or painful, the neutral. So how, because it's neutral, right? So how can one still cling or obsess to it? I mean, usually we tend to cling on the pleasant, and then on the painful we also cling to it. But if it's neutral, how do we cling to it? I mean, it's neutral, right? Maybe I kindly explain. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay. What is the cause of a neutral feeling? Neutral feeling, the cause there?
Illusion?
No. What is the cause?
Oh, contact.
Contact. So, okay. So, have we realized that neutral feeling arises because of contact? Have we? It's one thing to talk about this thing. Have we realized it? No, we have not.
No, we haven't.
So that means we are ignorant. Not having realized means ignorant. So as long as there is ignorance, there will always be attachment. With ignorance, there is craving. No, unknowingly we crave for the neutral feelings even. That's how it is until we realize the Dhamma. Where there is ignorance, why do we crave for things, anything? Because we are unaware of the reality. If we understand the reality of any conditioned phenomena, then we will never cling. We are ignorant of the reality, therefore we crave. So that's why even for neutral feelings, we crave. We don't realize that. That's what happens because of ignorance. Okay, that's how that has to be understood.
I think the Adukama Asuka is explained. You can aware only from 4th jhana onwards, like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th jhanas. Only we can, I think so, you can be aware of Adukama Asuka.
Yeah, like you have to really realize that in the 4th jhana. Yeah, the actual realization. That's where you can really realize. Like we come across that next week. Okay, we discuss that. Lady, does the underlying tendency to lust underlie all present feeling? Does the underlying tendency to aversion underlie all painful feeling? Does the underlying tendency to ignorance underlie all neither painful nor present feeling? Because we discussed what are the underlying tendencies for each of the feeling, present, unpresent, neutral. So does the underlying tendency to lust? So we discussed for pleasant feeling, the underlying tendency is lust. So the question is, does the underlying tendency to lust underlie all present feeling? And the underlying tendency to unpleasant feeling was aversion. So the question is, does the underlying tendency to aversion underlie all painful feeling? And does the underlying tendency to ignorance underlies all neither painful nor pleasant feeling? So the answer given is, friend Visaka, the underlying tendency to lust does not underlie all present feeling. The underlying tendency to aversion does not underlie all painful feeling. The underlying tendency to ignorance does not underlie all neither painful nor pleasant feeling. Okay, you might not understand it here, but it is defined later. Okay, so next question, lady, what should be abandoned in regard to pleasant feeling? What should be abandoned in regard to painful feeling? What should be abandoned in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling? Friend Visaka, the underlying tendency to lust should be abandoned in regard to pleasant feeling. With pleasant feeling, the underlying tendency to lust has to be abandoned. Then with painful feeling, the underlying tendency is there what? Aversion. That has to be abandoned. In neutral feeling, the underlying tendency is ignorance. That has to be abandoned. So next question, lady, does the underlying tendency to lust have to be abandoned in regard to all present feeling? With regard to all present feeling, does it have to be abandoned? What? Lust. That is why the question before there was no lady, does the underlying tendency to lust underlie all present feeling? No. Okay. That is why here the answer given, lady, does the underlying tendency to lust have to be abandoned in regard to all present feeling? The answer is Visaka. The underlying tendency to lust does not have to be abandoned in regard to all present feeling. Okay. And with regard to underlying tendency to aversion have to be abandoned in regard to all painful feeling. The underlying tendency to aversion does not have to be abandoned in regard to all painful feeling. And next question, does the underlying tendency to ignorance have to be abandoned in regard to all neither painful nor pleasant feeling? The underlying tendency to ignorance does not have to be abandoned in regard to all neither painful nor pleasant feeling. With regard to some pleasant, unpleasant feeling, neutral feelings, these underlying tendencies has to be abandoned. But regard to some, they do not have to be abandoned. And in which cases we can understand here. Here, friend Visaka, kite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a bhikkhu enters upon abides in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied by sustained thought, with rapture and pleasure born of seclusion. With that, so that there is a pleasure there, no? That is the present feeling. In the first jhana, that is the present feeling. And there is an underlying tendency there, no? For lust. Isn't that? So do you have to abandon that as well? No.
No.
That is how you have to understand the previous questions if you did not understand. Okay. So here is the first jhana. First jhana is a present feeling. And in every present feeling, there is an underlying tendency to lust. But that doesn't mean you have to get rid of that underlying tendency to regard to all present feelings, because there are the exceptions. The first jhana is an exception. Here Visaka says, with that he abandons lust, and the underlying tendency to lust does not underlie that. Because in the first jhana, you can abandon lust in the first jhana. Because in suttas we say, by insightful contemplation upon the five aggregates in the first jhana alone, you can attain arhanship. That means you can completely eradicate lust in the first jhana. So that underlying tendency for lust there does not affect you in a bad way. Okay, that is why it says, with that he abandons lust, and the underlying tendency to lust does not underlie that. So you are safe in that case, in the first jhana. So the underlying tendency of lust cannot affect you in a bad way. So then there is here a bhikkhu conducts, there's the next instance. When shall I enter upon, here bhikkhu thinks, okay, when shall I enter upon and abide in that base that the noble monks now enter upon and abide in? In one who thus generates a longing for the supreme liberations. Grief arises with that longing as condition. With that he abandons aversion, and the underlying tendency to aversion does not underlie that. Okay. So we discussed before Nekkhamma Dhammasa. Do you remember? You don't remember? That's a, like in the Sutta, Salayatana Vibhanga Sutta we learn. You might remember.
Yeah.
Good if you do. We discussed Nekkhamma Dhammasa. Like a person want to achieve liberation. He contemplate upon the impermanence of things, the pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neutral feeling, all the things he contemplate upon the impermanence, and he feel how good it would be if I can free myself of all the defilements that are in the mind. But just because he want to do so, that is not going to happen overnight. So then he's a bit unhappy. That is what Nekkhamma Dhammasa. So it is that what it is talked about it. Because that nekkhamma dhammasa, that is the unpleasant feeling, no? Nekkhamma dhammasa there. It is an unpleasant feeling, and there is underlying tendency of aversion there. But that is okay. That's what it says. With that he abandons aversion. And the underlying tendency to aversion does not underlie that. So that aversion is a good thing. Nekkhamma dhammasa there, it is with regard to the practice. It is something that is good. So that actually helps you in the path. That is why it said, with that he abandons aversion. You can use that to totally give up aversion. And the underlying tendency to aversion does not underlie that. So next, here with the abandoning of pleasure and pain and with the previous disappearance of joy and grief, a bhikkhu enters upon and abides in the fourth jhana. That means equanimity, pure equanimity, upekkha, in the fourth jhana, which has neither pain nor pleasure and purity of mindfulness due to equanimity. So there in the fourth jhana, there is equanimity. So what is the underlying tendency there with regard to neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling, equanimity feeling?
Ignorance, Bhante.
Ignorance. But that is in the fourth jhana. With that he abandons ignorance, and the underlying tendency to ignorance does not underline that. So in there, that state of pure equanimity, you can give up ignorance totally. So the underlying tendency you find there, it does not affect your progress in the path. That is why it's something you should have to remove, have to abandon. Okay. So that's how you have to understand that. Okay. So next question, lady, what is the counterpart of pleasant feeling? Friend Visaka, painful feeling is the counterpart of pleasant feeling. Then what is the counterpart of painful feeling? Pleasant feeling is the counterpart of painful feeling. What is the counterpart of neither painful nor pleasant feeling? Ignorance is the counterpart of neither painful nor pleasant feeling. What is the counterpart of ignorance? True knowledge is the counterpart of ignorance. What is the counterpart of true knowledge? Deliverance is the counterpart of true knowledge. What is the counterpart of deliverance? Nibbana is the counterpart of deliverance. Lady, what is the counterpart of Nibbana? Friend Visaka, you have pushed this line of questioning too far. After Nibbana, there is nothing more. No? You are not able to grasp the limit of the questions, or limit of your questions. For the holy life, friend Visaka is grounded upon Nibbana, culminates in Nibbana, ends in Nibbana. If you wish, friend Visaka, go to the Blessed One, ask him about the meaning of this. As the Blessed One explains it to you, so you should remember it. So in this way, Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna answered all the questions posed by Visaka, her husband in lay life, and said you can go to Buddha and again question upon this, and whatever Buddha might answer in whichever way, you can remember it as it is. So he actually goes to Buddha. Then the lay fellow Visaka, having delighted and rejoiced in the Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna's words, rose from his seat, and after paying homage to her, keeping her on his right, he went to the Blessed One. After paying homage to him, he sat down at one side and told the Blessed One his entire conversation with the Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna. When he finished speaking, the Blessed One told him this. What? The Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna is wise, Visaka. The Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna has great wisdom. If you had asked me the meaning of this, so if you had actually questioned me in this manner, I would have explained it to you in the same way that the Bhikkhu Dhammadinna has explained it. Such is its meaning, and you should remember it. That is what the Blessed One said. The lay follower Visakha was satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. And I hope these lay followers are also satisfied and delighted in the answers, because these answers are seconded by the Buddha. So it is same as the words of the Buddha. So if there were any doubts or qualms with regard in the mind of Visakha, with regard to whether his wife Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna had realized the Dhamma, I think they all disappeared, no, after the answers that were given to him. So this is the Culavedalla Sutta.